Okay, I've got 7 o'clock. Julie, do you know if Raquel's joining us?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you are. Great. Okay, I'll call. I see we have a quorum. I believe we have a quorum, and I'll call the is it March 8th meeting of the Shelby Township Planning Commission to order, and ask the secretary to call the roll, please.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Here, Shelby Township.
Mr. Meredith.
He is absent today.
Okay. Mr. Turner,
Here, Shelby Township.
Mr. Snyder,
Here, Shelby Township.
Mr. Apone.
He will not be here tonight either.
Okay. Mr. Grott,
Here in Shelby Township.
Chairman Moffett, we have a quorum.
Great. And actually, I'm participating in Florida. So
Oh, Shelby Township too, by the way.
great. First item or next item is approval of the agenda.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Next, approval of the minutes from the February 22nd meeting.
So move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So this evening we've got 4 site plans, one being a public hearing and some old business item that we need to address. The first site plan number 20-34, Carol Helton for AutoZone is the petitioner here or representative.
Yes, hi, this is Wesley Berlin. I'm with Spartan Engineering, the civil engineering consultant. I'll be representing AutoZone this evening for the meeting.
Great. Can I get your address as well, please?
Yes, it's 2583 Pine Bluffs Court, and that's Highland 48357.
Great. So why don't you give us a description? What are you asking, and maybe a brief description of your project, please?
Yes, we are requesting site plan approval for the AutoZone project that's located at 56215 in Van Dyke Avenue. We're proposing a approximately 7,400 square foot retail sales building with the accompanying drives, parking area, landscaping, and stormwater management for the development. Proposing a single point of access to Van Dyke Road, which has been approved by the Macomb County Department of Roads. That's kind of a brief overview. If there's any other specific questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay. I guess I'll turn it over to the planner or assistant planner.
Yes.
For
Thank
your
you, Jerry.
comments, please.
Thank you. As Mr. Berlin said, this is a 7,300, just over 7,300 retail center on the west side of Van Dyke, north of 25 Mile. This is type of building is common for that area. We've had a lot of development up and down that road there. The property is zone C1, and there is one ingress and egress off of Van Dyke, as Mr. Berlin said. I don't have any issues with the plans. There was a preliminary review done on this, so most of those items that you see on the site plan review comments have already been addressed. So I don't have any problems. The site plan also meets all the ordinance requirements, and no variances are required for this site plan. I know this afternoon we had one gentleman come in to look at the plan, and he wasn't too keen on the wall that is the wall that's required in the back of the property. So the only question I would ask Mr. Berlin is if they would be, they would consider any type of other decorative fencing material besides that brick wall.
This is Wesley Berlin again. Absolutely, Julie. If there's a different material that would be better suited or more receptive, we're certainly open to that. Is there any indication what might be more desirable or appropriate for the area?
Sure. We have we've been allowing those fences that look like cultured stone. So if you wouldn't, that would be one consideration.
Okay, so it's still a masonry construction of some sort, maybe just a different exterior material.
Correct. Or
Okay.
They also have the vinyl fencing that will work as well.
Okay. Yeah, we're certainly open to working with the township to propose what's going to be better received, I guess I'll say.
Great, thank you.
To the board, does anyone have any questions for the petitioner or for the planner?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
I have a question for Mr. Berlin on the elevations themselves. I noted that they look very nice, but I noted that you have a notation on there about quick brick. I think I know what that is. Can you explain what that is and how that works?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So a conventional brick is typically affixed to like a CMU block. This particular product has the exact same appearance of what a standard brick size would have. Instead of doing two separate courses like a CMU block and then affixing a brick to the outside, this is kind of a one-step process. So it's both a structural block. It takes place of the CMU, but it has the exact same appearance as that exterior brick. So it's kind of it kind of combines the two together. But again, it has the exact same properties, aesthetics, longevity as a typical brick would. It just eliminates that extra step for construction.
So it's more like a brick panel. Is that what I understand?
No, it's not a brick panel. Instead of like a 8x16 CMU block that you would normally stack and build a wall with, this takes the place of that. So it has like a stamped pattern on the outside that is the brick essentially.
Okay, and this is as durable, as you said, as regular brick?
It is.
Okay. All right, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say, if I did not submit material and manufacturer information, I would certainly be happy to do that to show. I can also show pictures and documentation from other projects if something like that would be desirable.
I did a little Googling before the meeting and I kind of got an idea of what it was, but I wasn't really sure. So I thank you for that explanation. It helps out a lot.
Sure, my pleasure.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
I'll move to approve site plan number 20-34 Carl Helton for AutoZone Development LLC, parcel number 23-07-16-476-003, located on the west side of Van Dyke, north of 25 Mile Road, subject to submitting revised plans addressing all department and engineering comments and recommendations made here at the meeting tonight.
Support.
Second.
Okay, I've got moved by Turner, support by Moore. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Is there a time for a public comment?
This isn't a public hearing. If you want to comment, go ahead. I'll allow it.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I would my name is Nicholas Lane. I live at 56260 Crimson, Shelby Township. My property is directly adjacent to the AutoZone. I was the person who came into the township earlier today. And my question with the fence was that it appears to be inconsistent with the property to the north, which has a berm with landscaping on top of it, as well as the commercial property to the south, which has a berm with landscaping. And I did speak with my neighbors, and we were both of the opinion that it would be much more aesthetically pleasing and consistent with the surrounding properties to have a berm with landscaping on top of that. So that would be just my request for changes with respect to the wall. Instead of a different type of wall, we would actually prefer a landscape berm to be consistent with the surrounding area.
To the petitioner, do your client object to that? Or, and it makes you, let me start off with the planner, would the township object to that?
The township would not object to that as long as it meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. I know that there was some issues with the drainage. I believe there's some drainage pipes there and also the detention pond. So if it works, given those two factors, I don't have a problem with that, as long as Mr. Berlin is okay with that as well.
Mr. Berlin?
We're talking a berm and landscaping in lieu of the fence altogether. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, we're totally fine with that. We have an abundance of plantings, trees, shrubs back there. So if it's a matter of putting in a berm, we're all for that. As Julie mentioned, we just want to make sure that we're not cutting off any drainage or causing any issues. So that's something we'll have to look at. But from a conceptual point of view, I'm all for it, and my client would have no objection to that either.
Okay. Mr. Turner, you okay with, you're still making the motion even with this change?
Yes, I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Ms. Moore, your support the same?
Yes, I support.
All right, very good. Okay, now I will call the roll. Mr. Turner?
Yes, go ahead.
You're good, just
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Grote?
yes,
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
I could.
Good luck.
Hello. This is I concur with Nicholas Lane. He's my neighbor as well. We had additional questions. I know that we're getting ready to wrap up, but I also.
Sir, we've just voted to approve it. So you can comment at a public comment, which is at the tail end of the meeting. There's other things you want us to know, but we've approved this person's approval. Recommended approval.
I concur with Nicholas Lane's request. My request would be to preserve the natural tree that's just behind the.
Sir, if you want to comment at the end of the meeting, you're welcome to do that. But right now, we're moving on to the next item, and it's really not appropriate for you to comment at this time. So I will call after these next several items, business from the floor, and you're welcome to offer your additional comments. Okay, thank you. Next item is site plan number 20-33, Scott Kutzer, DB Donaldson Company for GCIE USA. Is the petitioner or representative here?
Yes, I am. Good evening. I'm Bennett Donaldson with JB Donaldson Company. We're the underlying developer. Our address is 37610 Hills Tech Drive, Farmington Hills, Michigan. And we are the developer that's purchased the 60 acres, which used to be the old National Precast site. And we are proposing this 250,000 square foot facility for GCIE, which most of you probably are familiar with the company. They are a large employer currently in Shelby Township. And we have a short presentation that Scott Zawada from my office is going to put on the screen here shortly, just to run through sort of what our plan is, which you probably have in front of you. We also have David Brinkmeyer, who's the architect, and Matt Slicker, who's the civil engineer, and Dave Smith, who is with GCIE, are all available if after what we have to show you, you have questions of any of them or just myself. So Scott, if you want to share your screen, that'd be super. All right, will this roll or I gotta move it, Scott? Or you gotta move it? We can see it, I just gotta move the slides. Okay. That's just a little agenda we've got coming up. These individuals are all gonna be people that are working on this project. Myself, Clay Thomas, who's our general counsel, Scott Kreitzer, who's going to be the project manager for the job, and then the design and sort of building colors and look and canopies and all that sort of thing. Karen will handle. Go to the next slide, please, Scott. This is a quick sort of overview of GCIE, and they're a Spanish firm, injection molding. In multiple car parts of their business. This will be an injection molding plant for them. They have a couple local customers like Mazda and Rivian that this plant will supply, but mostly injection molded products will be produced in this facility. This talks a little bit about how long they've been in the township, the total of the 3 facilities, and how many current employees they have in Shelby Township. And then again, just a list of company data on here. And then some of the products that they list are off to the right there. So again, we propose that this is going to be a lease facility that we would build for CIE. They do have it should be known, they do have a purchase option on this building, which I think is with reasonably likelihood they will be purchasing this building. So this is sort of just a short-term financing thing for them. But anyways, they own their buildings that they currently reside in for the most part in Shelby Township. And I wouldn't assume this would be any different. They do supply they are a tier 1 supplier. They do supply to all sorts of primaries. Noise impacts, there's none. Hours of operations, 3 shifts, 24-hour operation. And over the next few years, they anticipate 475 jobs in the township are added to the township for this plant. Here's a look at the elevation of the plant. This is a precast building. Pretty standard building, 100% usability, basically just a big square. And I think we have a few pictures to show everybody at the end of our presentation that sort of show what we're dealing with today. And we hope this is a reflection of, how this property gets developed. Okay, so this, for the most part, is a conceptual layout of what we propose for the overall park. The only real prospect that we have right now is CIE, but we are talking to numerous prospects right now, probably 5 or 6. That front building, we have a user that would take that entire building that we're talking to. We've given several proposals on, so it is very active. We had planned on building the 35,000 square foot building on the other side of Birch Drive there at the same time as CIE is going to be constructed. We do not have a user for that building yet, but we would build it on a speculative basis since the development costs would be reduced by virtue of us building CIE at the same time, which means that road extension for Birch and the cul-de-sac would be constructed at that time as well. So next slide there. All right, this is just another shot of the elevation. Go ahead, Scott. This is the general floor plan and sort of footprint of the plant. Small office component, shop bathrooms, but mostly production space. So we just included a couple, if any of you have ever been to this site, it's really sort of beat up. There's quite a bit of debris out there, concrete panels, scrap, trailers, equipment, tractors, cars, dunnage, you name it, it's out there. There's the concrete plant that serviced the old National Precast building that still is being utilized today by Mega. Our agreement with them is that they will completely vacate the site by November. But as of last week, we started already cleaning the site. And Amadeo, who was the previous landowner, is aiding us in that effort. But we are robustly now moving debris off that site. So it should be a large improvement to the township to get this site cleaned up. There's also, we're working with Eagle because there is a very poorly maintained stream that runs through this property that is filled with concrete and debris and all sorts of things. And we're working with Eagle to sort of reroute that drain, clean it up, put wetland materials in that drain that can actually survive and thrive based upon a quality water management plan. So that drainage plan will all be part of our primary submittal to the engineering department once we do go in for final engineering. But that concludes our sort of pre-presentation. If you have any questions for any of us, I'll be happy happy to answer them or direct you to the person that can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. To the planner, your comments, please.
Sure, thank you. So this is quite a large building, and obviously it fits within the area. The site is zoned light manufacturing, and we certainly welcome this because that national precast, as you know, Mr. Donaldson just shared, there's significant remnants on the site. So we welcome the cleanup on this site and get it moving. So the only thing is that I wanted to mention that we have the same situation here. They are banking 269 parking spaces, which again, I largely don't have a concern about banking parking spaces because the more green space we have, the better it is anyway. And we just want to make sure that there's deed restrictions or on the site plan that allows the township to call in these parking spaces if they're needed. A variance is required for the height of the building. 35 feet is maximum in the light manufacturing, and they are proposing 40 feet. So we have a number of comments here. Also, I wanted to let the applicant know that we received a number of comments from the Macomb County Department of Roads, so they will need to address those on the site plan as well. The other thing I wanted to mention too here is at this time, this property is vacant, and they will be developing an industrial site condominium project for this. So at this time, I largely don't have any problems with proceeding with this site plan, but for any other site plans, I would recommend that they submit plans for industrial site condominium subdivision prior to any other buildings being approved for this property.
Thank you. Just somewhat to echo a little bit, it was nice that you presented a site plan that showed the potential additional investment of 2 other buildings, but frankly, that's kind of just nice to see, but we need a lot more detail and probably a better structure, as Julie had mentioned, before proceeding further with that one. To the board, are there any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman,
Mr. Turner.
I'll move to approve site plan number 20-33 for Scott Kreutzner, JB Donaldson for CIE USA, part of parcel number 23-07-24-201-034, located on the south side of 23 Mile Road, west of Hayes Road, subject to submitting revised plans addressing all the department and engineering and obtaining approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals. No other site plans will be approved for the remainder of the property prior to approval for an industrial site condominium development.
Second.
By Mr. Turner, support by Mr. Grott. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Grott?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Next item is site plan number 21-05, Igor Anekiak. Probably not even close. Is a petitioner here or representative? This is for the Balkan Market addition.
You'll have to unmute yourself, Mr. Lind.
Mr. Lind, you need to unmute yourself. Some of us may be lip readers, but most of us probably not.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Ken? Okay, good.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. I'm here with the applicant, and my name is Bob Lind. I'm with Urban Land Consultants. The address is 8800 23 Mile Road. Igor would like to get his site plan approved. I guess there was a building addition done a year or so ago without any permits, and they put a cooler on the south side of the building in the rear, and he would like to finish closing off the building and on the northeast side, another storage unit. So I understand there's some problems with the site plan. We have a few deficiencies. We'd like to try to get that resolved tonight. The building was built about 40 years ago. I don't remember what the use was, but he's had the building for about 14 years now. So there's a number of things that you've asked for, or Julie and the staff have asked for, and we have a few things we can do and a few things we can't do, but I don't know how we want to proceed, but we're here to listen and see if we can get this resolved.
Thank you. I want to say it was a florist at one time, but that's my bad memory. I'll tell you, we'll start off with the planning department. Mr. Fiore, I believe you reviewed this.
Yes, thank you. So as Mr. Lynn said, this site plan proposes a fairly minor addition to the building itself. It's a 240 square foot cold storage space, in addition to the previous 134 square foot addition that was built without requiring the necessary approval. With that being said, the site plan also proposes adding increased plantings and replacing some of the dead and damaged trees in the property and adding a dumpster enclosure to the site. The site plan overall is pretty straightforward. There's nothing too major that sticks out. Really, the best thing to note with this site plan is it's a reflection of some of the changes we've been seeing along some of the older properties along Van Dyke. Nick's Country Oven right across the street jumps to mind. Nick's 22nd Street Grill, Hilltop Bar, and then recently the Kelly Car Wash are getting major site renovations and modifications. And I think that's a good trend for us to follow in the township's good thing to for us to spot. With that being said, my review comments for this site are pretty straightforward, and most of them can be addressed by submitting a final site plan. The most major concern would be relocating the proposed trash location or trash enclosure to the northeast corner of the site rather than close to the sidewalk. We feel like this will better facilitate truck traffic and kind of move the enclosure away from pedestrian traffic traveling along the property. Besides that, most of my comments are, like I said, relatively minor and refer to items that can be addressed on the site plan. The only other major concern would be that the parking is less than what is required by the township. Now, it is only 4 spots that are missing. There are 3 different ways the applicant can address this. They can get a variance to address the lack of parking. They can get a shared parking agreement with the property to the north, or they can somehow find 4 spaces on that property. So either one of those options would be acceptable for the planning department. And then the last thing would be that there are bumper blocks identified on the plan. Those would not be permitted within the township. But as I said, the rest of my comments are fairly straightforward, and that ends my review for this project. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I'm gonna go back to something that the petitioner's representative stated, that there were items that you can't do that were being requested by planning that you can't do. Could you maybe elaborate on what you cannot do? What can't you that the planning department's requesting?
Well, one of the things that we cannot do is maybe move the dumpster to the north side of the parking lot. The client had that there early on when he was in business, and the overhead wires prohibited the truck from picking up the dumpster and putting it into the containers. So we might be able to take the dumpster and move it behind the parking areas and have some sort of a stipulation that being serviced at off hours when there's nobody parking back there. But I believe most of his clients all park in the front that shop in the market. We have an agreement with the neighbors to the north to remove all those bumpers along the north property line so we can make those disappear. We may have some challenges with bumper blocks along the sidewalk. There's no barrier there that we can physically stop the car, but maybe we can do something in front of the building with some sidewalks or curbs. So I think that's the best we can offer right now. We don't have any problems with adding some landscaping and fixing the sidewalk that's needs to be repaired from the tree roots. So that would be our proposal this evening.
Mr. Fiore, what are your thoughts on?
Well, if the trash enclosure were to remain at where it is proposed at, then I would suggest adding more screening along that boundary between the sidewalk and the trash enclosure, so that way it's a little more hidden from view. As far as the bumper blocks along the road, I understand that there's a problem as far as providing a delineation between the sidewalk and the right of way and the property itself. And, lack of tearing up 2 of the 2 feet of that concrete, that's a bit of a undertaking itself. There's only so much that can be done to delineate those areas. The only thing that come to mind would be putting up a masonry wall, but then that would probably stick out to the surrounding property itself. So as far as the bumper blocks go, like I said, they're not permitted within the township. So if they want to remain there, those would be required to get a variance for.
Okay, Julie, did you have a thoughts?
I was just going to say, maybe we can look at options for those bumper blocks, because like I said, I'm not a fan of them. But maybe there's a design option that we can look into that would certainly meet those requirements.
Okay. So you'd be comfortable with us going forward with this, acting on this, with that caveat?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. The one note I just wanted to make that since this is an existing site, there's no issue with the, less 4 parking spaces that are on this property. I mean, it is what it is. We're just going to try to improve, the site the best we can at this point. So as far as the parking goes, that's not an issue at all.
Okay, so trash enclosure closure, as long as there's some additional screening, we're okay with that where it's at. And the bumper blocks, we'll try to work with, you'll work with the petitioner to find a suitable or acceptable alternative.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, good. So the board, any questions for planning or the petitioner?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Turner.
For the applicant, on the back of your property, the eastern property line, around the northeast section of that area, you've got some outdoor storage there. You've got some landscaping pavers, you've got a scissors truck, and some other equipment. I don't know what it is. Is that your storage, or is that the property to the north?
It's the property to the north owns that. So it's not his equipment. There's a little storage garage there. It's got to be something related to that.
Yeah, well, I know it's the equipment still is in his property. So if we could, when you clean this up and we address the other issues, we get all that out of there. It would clean that up along the east property line. I noticed some of it does go across, but there is some of it that's on your property still.
Okay, we'll work with that and get that resolved, get that removed.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion from someone other than Mr. Turner.
I'll mute.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Moore.
I move to approve site plan 21-05 Igor Anakik, 5200 Van Dyke, parcel number 23-007-15-153-031, north of 23 Mile Road, east of Van Dyke, the Balkan Market addition, subject to the submission of a revised site plan addressing all department comments and removing items from the northeast side of the property that belong to the neighbor to the north.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Moore, support by Grote. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Grote?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. All right, good luck.
Okay, thank you for your help.
The next item is a public hearing for site plan number 21-04, special land use number 2, David Miller for the Charter Township of Shelby Department of Public Works. I will ask the secretary to read the notice is published.
Notice is Charter Township of Shelby, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Planning Commission for the Charter Township of Shelby, Macomb County, Michigan, has received a request for approval of the special land use. Applicant David Miller, Department of Public Works, 6333 23 Mile Road, Shelby Township, Michigan, 48316. Proposed use, water reservoir Facility, location, vacant parcels 23-07-10-476-009 and 23-07-10-476-010, north of 24 Mile Road, west of 53 Expressway. Site plan number 21-04, SLU 2. Sidwell number 23-07-10-476-009 and 23-07-10-476-010. Legal description is as follows. The Planning Commission will meet on Monday, March 8th, 2021 at 7 p.m. via Zoom for the purpose of holding a public hearing on the special land use application. The meeting will be held via Zoom due to the COVID-19 pandemic. You may participate at no cost in the virtual meeting by calling the following number. Dial 1-312-626-6799, meeting ID 831-3766-9175. The application for the special land use may be examined at the Planning and Zoning Department in the municipal building Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Written comments may be submitted to the Planning Commission at the above address prior to the hearing. Oral comments will be heard during the public hearing. This notice is provided pursuant to the requirements of Michigan Public Act 110 of 2006 as amended. Shelby Township Planning Commission, Jerome Moffitt, Chair, Raquel Moore, Secretary. This was published in the Macomb Daily on February 19th, 2021. There were 17 property owners and 1 applicant were notified by first class mail on February 18th, 2021.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kirk, did the publication meet all legal requirements?
Yes, it did.
Great, thank you. And can you explain the uses under the current zoning and if this special land use is appropriate?
Yes, the current zoning is a residential district. However, in this district, special land uses are permitted for public utility service buildings like this. That's so you're able to service those districts, and also it's not really any external effects. So it is listed as a special land use, so it is a proper request tonight.
Great, thank you. Ms. Moore, did we receive any correspondence on this request?
No, we did not, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, thank you. So the format for the public hearing will be as follows. The petitioner or the representative will state the request and the reasons for it. We'll then bring it to the board to ask any questions or offer any comments. I'll then open it up to the floor for anyone who wishes to comment or ask any questions. I'll record those questions and comments and then ultimately bring the petitioner back to then respond to those questions or comments. So again, it's not a debate. We're just trying to get all the information so we can make an educated recommendation to the township board. At this point, I'll ask, I see a couple of familiar faces, which one will be representing the township to proceed, please. Name and address, you know the rules.
Yes, great. Hi, I'm Gordon Wilson with Anderson Eckstein and Westrick, 51301 Shaner, Shelby Township. Here tonight on behalf of the DPW, we have David Miller, the DPW director, and Asil Putros, also with AEW, who's worked on the project. If I may, I'm going to share my screen now. Oh, I can't. Can I be allowed to share the screen, Mr. Chairman? Or?
Well, it's risky, but I think the host will allow you.
Yep, you're not allowed.
Okay. Okay. Shelby Township provides water to over 80,000 residents, businesses, users, and they have over 410 miles of water in their system. And they take this responsibility very seriously. Recently, they were advised by GLWA that they exceeded their coincidental peak flows that are written into their contract with them. So in keeping with this, they did a quite in-depth research regarding the installation of a water reservoir facility, where it would best fit, how it fits into their system. And in this area here that we chose, there's a 24-inch water main that will allow us to move water throughout the township relatively quickly and easily. The purpose and the point of this facility is to equalize water demands, to reduce pressure fluctuations, and to manage peak flows so that we can stay within our contractual limits. Additionally, this facility here will provide other benefits such as added firefighting protection, power outages, and other emergencies. We'll be able to get water back into our system. Upon completion of the reservoir, This will be a major integral part of our water distribution system and will be to the benefit, health, safety, and welfare of the entire community. The proposed design, we took into account the aesthetics and trying to fit it into the area appropriately. As you can see, we have a brick facade on the building and on the water storage facility. We've provided these renderings to you in your package. We've also done a developmental impact statement that complies with the special land use requirements, and we trust that you'll agree with our findings in that. I guess the use of this and the occupation, we chose a location near M53 because of the water main facility out there and our ability to move the water. We have taken into account the aesthetics and also the neighbor adjacent to it. We will be asking the ZBA for a variance to have it 15 foot from the freeway, which the freeway, by the way, sits 12 foot above this site because of the 24-mile road overpass. So I don't think it'll be a problem there. There'll be very limited use on the site. But by doing that, we're able to provide 50 foot of setback from the adjacent residential use. But we would also put a berm and heavy landscaping on that to provide screening from that. We've provided in your package line of sight drawings that show that when you're driving down the road, you will, by looking over the roof here, you will not be able to see the water storage facility. The height of the water storage facility will be within the R1B zoning requirements. And as stated, we did as much as we possibly could to be sensitive to the area, to take into account the aesthetics and architectural design, and to have a facility that, you know, the pumping station and the reservoir itself that are, you know, consistent with the neighborhood around there. And I guess, as I said, this is a necessary facility for the township, and it does provide for the entire township. And with that, I guess we'd ask that you consider our request and grant us approval tonight.
Okay, thank you. Can you maybe address any sound that would come from this facility and odors, or if any?
There will not be any sound, or, you know, during construction it'll be normal. Odors and sound, there would not be there. There will be a generator on site that will be exercised at least once a month just to make sure it runs properly. But we'll have mufflers on it. It'll be on the far side up against the expressway. We've put a screening type parapet wall adjacent to that to provide additional screening for that. So there's not going to be any sound or odors that we would anticipate that would be intrusive to the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. To the board, do any commissioners have any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Turner.
Mr. Wilson, what is the gallon capacity of the reservoir?
Right now, we're looking at about 3.25 to 3.5 million gallons of storage.
Okay. And what is the frequency of the traffic do you think will be going in and out of this facility?
I would assume that there would be a couple times a week, there would be people visiting that, but Dave might be better able to answer that.
Gordy, you're right. We'll be looking at probably 2 or 3 times a week, and you're probably talking a maximum of 3 trucks a trip. Very minimal traffic, less than what you'd see, I think, than if you had 2 residential homes sitting in there.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turner. Anything, any other commissioners have any questions or comments? I don't see any, so I will we'll open this now to the public. This is the only public hearing the Planning Commission will hold on this special land use request. All remarks will be entered into the record for Township Board evaluation. We are a recommending body, and the Township Board will evaluate our recommendation, which is a legislative body. The Township Board will make the final decision on the special land use request. At this time, anyone is free to offer any comments or ask any questions on this item. I will ask the host to explain probably what's the best and most orderly way to do this, given this format.
Okay, we will be using Zoom's virtual hand raising to let us know that you would like to speak. If you're on a computer, go to the bottom of the screen where it says participants, click the button and that says raise hand. If you're on a smartphone using the Zoom app, you're going to have to look for the three dots in the lower corner of the application, press those dots, and then press raise hand. If you're on a phone, you're going to have to press *9 to raise your hand. Once you've been called, you'll press *6 to unmute yourself. We have two people. First off, we have iPhone.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me? Gasper Gamikia?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Gasper and Carol Gamikia, 11380 Greenwood Drive, Shelby Township. We own the property that is on the north end of the two lots that are at issue. Along with Mr. and Mrs. Need, we both abut the northern property line. I looked at the drawings. I'm very impressed by them. I just have some general questions about the future and one important request. I assume Shelby Township either owns this already or is going to purchase it if the approvals are obtained. Is that correct?
I'll tell you, ask the questions and then I'll bring them back up to answer all the questions. So
you want all the questions? Okay.
Yeah, we're going to, right.
First question is, does the township own it? Or will they purchase it if they don't own it, or is it a land lease? I'd like to know the distance between the northernmost point of your development here and the back northern lot where we have our property, what that distance is. I assume that the comment was that you're tying the system into a water main, that water main is along 24 Mile Road, and it's not going to be tied in through the north end of the property. The one request that I have, and I've spoke to my adjoining neighbor, is I understand there's going to be a berm and there's going to be some arborvitae trees, which will be constructed on the western end to assist the residential person there from seeing this facility. I would really like to have the same thing along the back. In the wintertime, we will be able to see this. In the summer, I'm not sure. I don't think so. So I don't think the summer's a problem, but in the winter it is. And of course, I don't know when I'll be selling my home, winter or summer someday. So I would like to have the same treatment along the back northern side of this facility as far as a berm and tree as you are going to place on the western end. And then the only other question I think is there any plans or could there be any future expansion on the vacant portion on the north end of these lots, which will not be used now, which will remain vacant at this point? Could the use be expanded so that now the use is closer to my property line? And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Next up is Max Carpino.
Thank you for taking my call. Yes, I am the property owner that's adjacent to the AutoZone, and my address is 562.
Okay, sir, there will be business from the floor where you can comment on that item. Right now, we're addressing this public hearing request.
At what point do I comment on my request, sir? Thank you.
There's another item after this under old business, which shouldn't take too long, and then we'll get right into the planning director's report and then business from the floor. That's part of the agenda. So
Okay.
it'll be once this item, it should be 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, we have 586, last three numbers, 018. Would you like to speak?
Yes, please. This is Doreen and David Mead, and our house is adjacent to the Gamikias, 53250 Beechwood Drive. And I have a couple questions on page 3. You answered some of them, but it talks about periods of operation. What does that mean? What are the periods of operation? It talks about there's going to be lighting installed around and it would be shielded. How are you planning to shield that? And is there going to be an employee on site 24/7? Or is this like a freestanding building? David?
Okay. No, we're going to take all the questions and then we'll ask them. Okay.
Right.
Is there anything else you wanted?
Might have a question. Okay.
Okay.
I just have one quick question. Since this is a municipal facility, would it not be more appropriate to build it on municipal property, such as the property that surrounds City Hall?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who wishes to comment or ask questions?
Mr. Chairman, no one has raised their hand.
Okay. I'm going to go once, go twice, and 3 times. We'll bring it back and ask the petitioner to engage again. So the first item, and I'm just going to go through them as I have written down here. Is it feasible to locate this at another location, specifically somewhere on the township campus at 24 in Van Dyke?
With respect to that, we looked at 6 or 7 different areas in order to try to locate it, including township-owned property. None of them had the same capability to move water away. Right here, we have a 24-inch, so we can distribute it around the community. So this was the most appropriate place based on our investigation.
Okay. So period of operation.
The period of operation, well, this will be operating continuously. Most of the time, we're going to be taking water into the thing from, say, 11 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the morning. We'll be discharging the water back into our system from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock or so. By period of operations that we discussed in there, that was talking about having township personnel on site or working or doing things. And then, as Dave said earlier, it'd be 2 to 3 times a week and very minimal.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and so that also addresses that question about employees. Could you review just briefly the light shielding? What lights are going to be required, and
yes, what we're
the efforts to shield?
Yes, we placed a lighting plan on the project, and we're going to use lower pole-mounted lights that'll be lower, but they'll have shielding to direct the light towards the facility and not towards adjacent properties or towards the road. So we would keep that reasonably very well shielded, I guess, for lack of a better word. But there'll be pole-mounted lights, and they'll be shielded to keep the light on the site generally.
Future development plans? Are
At
there?
this stage, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say at this stage right now, no, there are no future plans to expand back there as we sit here today.
Okay. Does the township own the property, or does it plan to purchase or lease it in the future?
The township has a purchase agreement on that, which, subject to approval here, we'll close on that, and the township will own the property.
Okay. The distance between the storage facility and the northern boundary line?
The water reservoir is approximately 350 feet away from the northern property line.
Okay. Now, thoughts on providing the same screening with a berm and plantings on the northern boundary line?
Well, the intent back there was to leave all the woods that exist there. Now it's rather quite wooded. And our intent was to leave the natural vegetation outside of the fence, which is, several hundred feet of natural woods. So right now we hadn't intended to put anything there.
Okay.
Mr.
And then
Chairman?
the water main? No.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Miller. Yeah.
If need be, we could probably intersperse a couple pine trees in there. I'd hate to go in and start cutting a berm in there because we'd have to take some of those trees out.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And then the water main connection, will that be on 24 or 53? I don't know where that water main is. Where will the connection run from?
The connection would be on the frontage on 24 Mile Road.
On 24.
No stub to the south, to the north. There will not be one.
Okay. Thank you. Those are the questions that I had. I'll ask the planner for her comments.
Thank you, Chairman Moffett. I just wanted to commend Mr. Miller along with AEW on their team in the facade of this pump house and also the tank itself. I think it resembles a lot of the residential homes in the area. All they require is one variance for the setback along the freeway there. I would agree with Mr. Miller, and instead of constructing a berm there, you would have to remove a majority of the trees to construct the berm, and that would be counterproductive with all the trees that's there. So adding more trees to the rear of the property line, I think would be the solution here in this case. Other than that, like I said, they've addressed all the special land use standards and minor improvement, minor corrections to the plans. But overall, I think it's a great plan, and I think they've done an excellent job in trying to integrate it with the residential properties, surrounding properties.
Great. Mr. Wilson, Mr. Miller, Ms. Boutros, you want to say hello at least to everybody?
Good evening, everybody.
There we go. All right. I just want to make sure you get paid. So, all right. Do you have anything additional you want to add?
No.
I think we covered enough.
All right. Very good. Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Moved
by Turner.
Support.
And support by Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So our recommendation on this request must be based on the following standards: compatibility with adjacent land uses, consistent with and promote the intent and purpose of the special land use, compatibility with the natural environment, consistent with the capacities of public services and facilities affected by the proposed use, protect the public health, safety, and welfare, and the adequacy of the public access to this site. We may recommend approval. We could recommend to disapprove, or we could table it to evaluate the information further. At this time, I think it's appropriate for a motion. You can make this one, Mr. Turner, if you want.
All right, Mr. Chairman. I'll recommend approval to the Township Board for site plan number 21-04, SLU4, David Miller, Shelby Township, for a water reservoir facility located on the north side of 24 Mile west of the M53 freeway, parcel numbers 23-07-10-476-009 and 23-07-10-476-010, subject to the submission of revised plans addressing all of the department and engineering comments and obtaining approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals based on the following. The proposed use of a water reservoir facility at the site will not interfere or discourage the development of abutting property. The proposed use will not cause substantial injury to the value of other property in the neighborhood in which it is to be located, and will not be detrimental to existing and/or other permitted land uses in the zoning district. And the proposed use will benefit the community's public health, safety, and welfare in providing water reserves for firefighting, power outages, and other emergencies.
Is there support?
Support.
I'm going to say support by moved by Mr. Turner, support by Mr. Snyder. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Grote?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next item under old business is a request from GBB Properties for an extension, a site plan extension. Julie, do you want to just tee that up quick?
Sure. This was a site plan for an industrial building on Pauline Drive that, as a matter of fact, lot 12 of Central Industrial that received site plan approval back in 2018. The applicant is just asking for an extension. It's taken her some time, but there's nothing that has changed in the ordinance that would affect the approval of this site plan or extension of it.
No one has any objections? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Grant.
make a motion to extend the site plan number 18-12 for Maria Brancini, GBB Properties, LLC located at 12968 Point Drive, Lot 12, Central Industrial Subdivision for 1 year.
Support.
Okay, moved by Grote, support by Turner. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Grote,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Very good. Planning Director's report. Julie, got anything for us?
I do not, Chairman.
Very good. Business from the floor. Mr. Carpino, I apologize and thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for taking my call. So our property is adjacent to the AutoZone. We have some natural landscape, very mature, some very large trees that we would request that stay in place. And it's something that we would like as a family, along with Nicholas Lane. We both talked. We like the idea of having the berm, and we like the preservation of the natural landscape with the mature trees. So that is our only request.
Okay, and it sounded like the petitioner was open to that, and I think was willing to do it, subject to being able to preserve those trees. But tell you what, let me recommend that you see either Ms. Misich or Mr. Fiore in planning. So when they do get out, maybe they can come meet you out there. You guys can walk the site a little bit. They make sure that they can, then we'll communicate that to the petitioner. Sort of specifically what you're looking at.
Very
okay.
Good. Thank you, Mr.
Very
Chairman.
good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there support?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.